Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, but before I do, I'm going to say a big thank you to the 5 people who've joined in the last 3 days on Patreon, so a big shout out to you. It's been a bit of a stressful time, so seeing lots of extra support has been a bit of a surprise, but thank you very much indeed. So first and foremost, I'm going to do a shout out to my brand new Patreon, which is JMels24, also an anonymous Patreon who dropped a £100 donation immediately but didn't want to be named by name, but thank you to you. I'll stop mentioning the anonymous Patreon as I go down the list each time. I'll just remember each time to miss that person out, but I want to do a big shout out especially to the people who've just joined and the person who's dropped quite a substantial amount of money on my Patreon. As you can probably tell, I'm a little bit taken aback by this support, so I'm obviously dependent on it and very, very, very grateful when I do get it, and more support is always better, so thank you very much. In any event, I'll start that list again. So JMels, my newest Patreon, 24, thank you very much indeed, and Yuma Namito, M, Iron 26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive, huge, enormous, I don't know how many more I can strap onto that. Thank yous to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Guilded and Discord so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. You want me to bring up these big chunky text things?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
John, refracted curvature, are you seeing this?
The process of reading it right now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. In the preliminary course in mathematics, it was stated that plane trigonometry is the branch of mathematics which treats of solution of the plane triangle by means of the relation that the sides and the angles of a triangle bear to one another. In plane trigonometry, we deal with plane triangles, figures on a plane surface, composed of 3 angles expressed in angular measure and 3 sides expressed in linear measure. In spherical trigonometry, we deal with spherical triangles, figures on a curved or spherical surface, composed of 3 angles expressed in angular measure and 3 sides expressed arc measure. Here we go. The plane triangle is developed into the spherical triangle by a series of combinations of plane trigonometric ratios and a final transition into the formula of a spherical trigonometry that gives the cos A and all that. Substitution transforms this formula into one composed of terms we require in celestial navigation. And you see the HAV in that formula. Figure V shows the basic spherical triangle with parts leathered. Figure VB shows combined diagram on a plane and the meridian, etc. results in astronomical triangle. Figure VC shows the triangle PZM with the component parts leathered. The substitution referred to the above notes illustrated by the renaming of the basic spherical triangle, figure VA, into the navigational triangle. Once having obtained, well, go to the next slide because I can read it from there. Once having obtained Z, the zenith distance by solving the formula, have Z equals have, and then some more formulas, is obtained by subtracting from 90 since HC equals 90 minus Z. The formula stated above is the cosine Haversine formula, which is the basis of practically all the so-called modern methods of navigation. And these methods involve the solution of an astronomical triangle in one way or another, and differ but little from their basic principles. So I think John's
Hold on.
transformation should be
Hold on.
a housekeeping question.
Just one sec. Just one sec. I want to read one of those sentences again. The plane triangle is developed into the spherical triangle by a series of combinations of plane trigonometric ratios.
Yeah, you got it.
And a final transition into the formula of spherical trigonometry. Loosely translated, we measure and derive our maths from a flat Earth and then change them into a globe Earth. That's what that says.
Sure does.
Did you hear the bit about admitting the Haversine in there as well?
Yes.
Is applied to a flat plane?
Yes. And further to the application of the Haversine, then they can start worrying about how the triangles are spherical. It's like, what, after you've converted it by way of the Haversine to be spherical, why would you want to do that if it is spherical? I think you will end up with this being a housekeeping question somehow, John. I think it's excellent because the differential between two planes is what's being described, isn't it? Where'd you find this?
Oh, this is from an astronomy book. I got more. This is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. I mean, this is what the research is showing. Obviously, we killed it with what's an angle, Sexton's angle measuring device, and you can't get an angle from a curved surface. You need a straight baseline. So that destroyed them. And then, obviously, when I saw the PZM or PZX, they change it every now and then. Navigational triangle, it's always projected from the equatorial plane because that's where the plane triangle comes from, the equatorial plane, because all the navigation books numbers come from the equator, the Earth cut in half, so flat surface. That's projected to the celestial sphere in their writing, and then reprojected back to the arc of this Haversine changeover. So I started researching that, and that's where John picked up on it, and he knows this more than I do, and he came up with that wonderful housekeeping question. I hope you do include a transformative. If you could say it again, it was the way you said it was great.
Me or John? Sorry.
It's a difficult question to formulate because, and I don't really get enough time during the day to put thought into how to formulate the question. But it's basically, what do you believe you're applying the Haversine formula to? Because they've already got a spherical sky in that the celestial sphere model. You know, what are you needing to transform?
If I could,
but don't even
bring up with
never leave it rhetorical. Answer the question, John. What do they need to transform it to? What, or in other words, what's the necessity to go from what to sphere? I want you to phrase it though and answer it.
Yeah, that's like how the housekeeping questions are all contained. Like, why are you applying the Haversine formula to a flat plane and then it's saying it's not a flat plane?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at you, because that's what it needs to be made explicit in the question. why are you applying a globe transformation to a flat plane if the Earth is a sphere? But whether or not that's the right succinct formulation of the question, I don't know, and I doubt. But you know what I'm driving at. It just needs that little bit of refinement.
Let me run something by John. John, I've shown the pictures and I just described it. So when they shoot that angle all the way up, and you said they already got a celestial sphere, why do they need? Well, that inside concave part of the celestial sphere is curved, and they just take that triangle and place it on the surface of the Earth. That's what they're doing.
Well, it's like, have you ever done any quadrant-based maths? Like, what you would do is if you had a sphere and you were wanting to draw a triangle on its surface, you'd create like a square or a box around it with all equal sides.
I've seen pictures of it, but I don't know how to do it.
Well, it's not too difficult because R is required though, and the radius line becomes half the diameter of the length of your box all the way around. It's got all equal sides. Then you take an eighth of that box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put your angle on the flat plane of that box, and then you use the radius value to cut through those lines as they're drawn back to the center of the sphere. You see what I'm saying?
So they take a portion of it, the flat portion of it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they draw the angle out flat. I guess conceptually it's done flat, and then they use the radius and that formula to curve it. But why would you need to curve it if it was already curved,
No, I know what you're saying, but you still need a radius, which they don't have.
Yeah, it's a clusterfuck for them right now. Just pardon my French.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Neil.
Come on, formulate the damn thing and get it into housekeeping. What's going on here?
Well, I'm just lazy, Neil. Thank you for putting the pressure on me.
John, come on. Just make a sentence up. You can do it in your sleep. You're not giving yourself enough credit here. I'm here to encourage you. Formulate that bad boy.
Well, to get it to be a self-contained question is the hard part, right? Because the logic has to be kind of in your face.
Didn't you already have it by calling a transformative equation?
That's what I'm saying. I thought you had it. Maybe a couple of words here and there to make it a housekeeping question, like when we say any evidence of gravity, any evidence it is. Just a couple more words to make it perfect. Oh, Nathan, you're good with words too. What are you standing in the sidelines? Get in there.
Are you Sergeant Carter?
I'm still annoyed that I cut myself yesterday, man.
Oh, how did that end up?
It ended up with 5 stitches. And every time I went back to the job site, every time I bent down and got up, my equilibrium was off.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Some areas I got bad reception.
I thought your equilibrium just went off.
Then I was feeling a little woozy. I was like, you know what? What am I proving here? I'm freaking going.
Oh, yeah. Are you okay, Neil?
Yeah, how's your thumb?
It's throbbing like one of the cartoons when they smash their thing with a hammer. And you see it going, wow, wow, wow. That's my thumb right now. but you don't realize how much you need your thumb until you try to work without your thumb.
Oh, I'm very pleased for you, Thumb. It made for an absolutely fantastic cliffhanger right at the end of yesterday's after show.
Yeah, in
Hey,
fact, Nathan got 10 thumbs up just as you left.
Hey, when you went back on, I was actually in the like urgent care place, and they were stitching me up, and I had the camera on. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if I had reception, but I had the camera right on as she was stitching me.
No, I didn't see it. And Nathan, I popped up a picture in Master D that might explain what John was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, so the angle comes from the center of the Earth, that equatorial plane. It's shot all the way to the imaginary celestial sphere, the concave inner side of it. And you could see the arc there. And then it's recasted down to create the globe Earth. And you could see the dotted line between the star on the top is projected down on the surface of a globe.
Right, very good.
If only we took measurements from the center of Earth, you know, they would be rocking.
We do if we believe we're on a globe. And that we use a celestial sphere model that's centered around a flat plane.
Well, that's why celestial navigation works, because we are on a plane, a regular plane called Earth. They say, we need it to be a globe. We'll just put that down to the center and do the haversign and make this other stuff happen and trick people. But where's your R? Well, it's not here today. It changes. It's supposed to be geometric. Oh, the weather changed it today. Sorry.
This is the origin of disco ball Earth. You remember the surveyors talking about, you know, the flat plane in relation to the sphere and tangent planes and stuff. Like, they're saying this stuff like it's fact, that the plane is out of phase with itself, you know, that it's the angle of the plane is changing instead of just the angle to the stars is changing.
I can see that as being something that an ordinary person who just I think the term is cognitive dissonance, has come up with to explain it away. So they're looking at it going, okay, so take the angle from a flat plane, but I'm on a sphere. Well, to right that wrong, to square that circle, I've got to say that what's stretched out in front of me is a plane, but it's simultaneously going to be the angle to the stars that I'm measuring versus their GP on the plane. So I've got to also make that plane quite big. Okay, so we'll make a very big plane and then stick that plane to the sphere so that I can have this measurement that's working from the center of the sphere translate back up to the plane, but then it's not a plane. Then it's translated up to the curve that we're actually standing on. I gotcha. That's why we do it that way. So measure it off a plane for the angle that's in the arc that I see in my view through my measuring tool, translated back to the center of a sphere, and then back out to the curve that I had to ignore and couldn't measure from. Great, I'm there. Sphere. I'm all good. You can see how somebody in pure cognitive dissonance has gone through that process to come up with disco ball Earth, in essence, a whole load of tangent planes stuck to a spherical surface.
I have it in Master D. If you go to Master D, I got 2 pictures of disco ball Earth.
Yeah, they're confusing themselves basically.
Before you do that, when you talk to people, they don't deny it either. They say, yeah, of course, that's how we get the measurements. They don't deny that they're cutting the Earth in half and they're going to the center.
Because they don't know what measurements are then. Hey, Neil, have you ever took your tape measure and threw it at a wall and called that a measurement?
That's funny.
that would probably be more practical than what they're doing.
An update on my computer. Paul's actually in the Gilded server right now, but his message said that they had contacted him to say that they'd arranged for a different courier because the one that they'd arranged hadn't come to collect it, which isn't surprising at the moment with the state of our postal and delivery service in this country. So apparently a different courier has been arranged, and hopefully they'll come and collect it today, and it'll be here tomorrow.
Cool.
I said that yesterday, by the way.
Yes, you did. Wish there was suspenseful music to play in the background after I said that.
So
Anyway.
Nathan, did you see the boiling water slides I put up?
Yes. Do you want me to go to those?
Yeah, go through each one while we wrap before the show
I can't
starts.
remember which chat room it was in.
Master D, the first one's got a
Okay, I'll start from the top.
techscience.com.
Yes, you talk
Yeah.
us through them. So what's in this picture is a pan of boiling water with a thermometer in it at 100 degrees C.
Yeah, that's what it is. Next one. Now this is interesting. Tap water, time 6 minutes 40 seconds. Temperature 100 C. Salt water, time 6 minutes 40 seconds. I'll have to try this one day. So seems to be doing it at the same time, or it's asking you to do it. I don't know. It was just one picture. Be interesting to find out. Next one. What temperature does water boil at? Well, it's got a bunch of things here. And this is what's beautiful about control variables and all that kind of stuff. Everest gives the elevation 69.94. Kilimanjaro gives the elevation 80.33. La Paz gives the elevation 87.71. London, your backyard, 99.96. Sea level, 100. Baku, 100.1. The Dead Sea, 101.4. What would you call this, Nathan? Contradiction or cause and effect
It's not really
within particular situations?
You've given me a false juxtaposition because there's no description of the cause and effect in this that I could read. I did go through them all, right? I don't know if you want to carry on or do you want me to actually comment at this point?
Well, it's talking here at the bottom. Why does water boiling point vary? It's not so much the elevation that affects the water's boiling point as the decreased atmospheric pressure at higher elevations. A liquid will boil when its vapor pressure is equal to the atmospheric pressure. Vapor pressure can be thought of as a tendency of molecules to escape the liquid surface into the gas phase. Vapor pressure increases with increased temperature as more molecules have a kinetic energy required to overcome attractions to other water molecules. At lower pressures, molecules escape more easily as the vapor pressure required for them to do this is lower. And then it gives another part to the left where it says at boiling. So obviously heat is applied.
Okay, but it's more detailing the boiling point. And the boiling point at various altitudes is, if you want to claim cause, pressure, affect boiling water. But in the example given with a hot spring the other day, and I've trimmed this out and made it into a video, in fact, with the example for hypothesis actualization of a variable, in that case, it was not salt, but dirty water or mud or earth, soil. Go on, John.
It was soil content.
Soil content. There we go. So
Yep.
the soil content was the independent variable thing that will be varied and manipulated. So as it's not mentioned in this, that obviously heat, because it's saying what temperature does water boil at, but it's not explicitly saying that you're going to be varying the temperature to see if the temperature is actually going to be the thing that causes it to boil. But that's what you're trying to establish when you're looking to find out the cause of a naturally occurring effect. In this case, why does the water boil? Not at what point does the water boil after we apply heat, because we already know that it's heat. Well, we don't. We tried to vary the soil content the other day at Jaron's behest. So at Jaron's behest, we varied the soil content, and it didn't make any difference what altitude we were at. Do you remember? Because we're all at different altitudes, aren't we? But it didn't make any difference what altitude we varied the content of the soil. It wasn't the cause of the effect. We proved the null prediction of if soil content, then water not boiling. We proved that null. So we know that didn't cause the water to boil then. So we're talking the difference between qualitative and quantitative when you say the boiling point. What temperature? You mean how much application of heat versus the measurement of that application of heat do you need to get it to boil? We already know that we're going to be applying heat as opposed to adding mud then. So that's not what we're trying to do when we look at how much of something, because how much soil didn't vary to give us the result we needed. To say, oh, well, we needed 16 tons of it to get it to boil, you know. But in this case, it's already assumed that we're going to be adding heat to it and then seeing how much heat we need at various altitudes. But the premise we already know. We already know that the cause, the temperature, is established in these examples. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, let's move on. So I can finish before the show starts. So the next one is, at what temperature does water boil? Now you can see it's got heat, so it's obviously heat. And then it's asks you a question. Is it 1 degree, 10 degree, 100 degree, 1,000 degree? Well, we know the answer to this one if it's at sea level. Go to the next one. Boiling point of water. Everest, 69.9 again, 158 Fahrenheit. Sea level, 100 Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit, and the Dead Sea, 1014 or 215 Fahrenheit. And then it gives the same thing as that previous slide said about the vapors and so forth when it goes into gas phase. That's it. It's pretty simple. I don't understand the big deal about using boiling water to say science doesn't prove things. I mean, it's so embarrassing.
As I said,
that's what I was thinking.
It's the difference between qualitative and quantitative in terms of this argument. So there's a misapprehension about what's trying to be achieved when you already state things like, well, scurvy is just lack of vitamin C. What, they already knew that when they labelled it and they didn't have the fruit to give them? No, it wasn't understood to be a lack of vitamin C. They had to establish the cause. And in this case, we've dumbed it right down to the point where we know beyond doubt what will cause the water to boil. So what that means that the dumbos have to say, well, that's a given then. No, because if you take them to bare bones independent variables and only vary one thing as per the method of science, you'll see if, well, what about the salt content? What about the soil content? Okay, that's what we do in science. That's why you approach it with this systematic experimentation in mind. Because you're going to say, okay, you guys varied the soil content of the water, but does that mean that all soil won't cause water to boil? Well, okay, maybe there's magic radioactive soil that might do it. So we've got to do it systematically. Because then you find that, as a general rule of thumb, once you've established that A causes B and discounted that A does not cause B, you've ruled out one and proven the other, never to be violated. So, in this case, soil will never cause water to boil. Ever. We've proven that. It wasn't very difficult, and we've had to dumb it right down to show it. But in that equation, we can add soil at any bloody altitude you like if you want to take it to a control variable to argue about. Or we can talk about how much we're going to measure the temperature at when we vary the soil content. Oh, so we've got to have heat in the equation as the causal influencer on the effect we're studying. Yeah, that's what we're trying to prove when we put these things through the method. And we can put all of the listed things that Jaron listed, like salt and soil, through the method. But obviously when we do so, we'll hold heat constant. So whatever heat the water's at, atmospheric, sea level, whatever you want to hold constant that's not the thing you're varying, in this case soil or salt, one at a time, I might add, then that's all you're going to vary, how much salt's in the water. If you pile it in by the pound, does it make it boil? Nope. That's soil. Pile it in by the pound, does it make it boil? Nope. What about if you apply heat? Ching! Yeah, that'll make it boil. But what about what temperature at what altitude? Well, that's not an independent variable anymore. You're varying two things. You only vary one to prove empirically that has caused the effect, with everything else held constant. But we're dealing with people who just simply don't understand this method. Now, over the weekend, I'm going to release a whole bunch of videos. I've got 4 edited. I've got the quiz cards with Ken. I've got the basics of the scientific method that I've just gone through literally 30 seconds ago. I've got hypothesis actualization, which is basically what we're arguing about in this regard. The experiment, how it's being hijacked by people who claim ether to grease the skids of their just so stories and claim science proves, because what? They've got this word experiment attached to some gadget or phenomena that they've observed that they haven't varied the cause of to see if they can validate it as the cause of the effect. But they'll still say experiment, they'll still say science, because they want you to still think they've proved it, when they haven't. So I've gone through hypothesis actualization, and there's a third one that I've forgotten. Oh yes, I've republished the visit 4 years ago, or just shy of, over at Globusters, where at the end I summarise exactly these points to Bob, and was told that it's ridiculous. That was his response, and told me to go away. Better leave then, if you're going to keep telling me that if it's not proving anything, it's not worth telling us it's proof. That's what's going to get published over the weekend. Somebody in the comments, might as well add this before we go live, I'm dragging over a little bit, made it clear to me that this is a band-aid that should have been ripped off ages ago. And that if there was any damage under the band-aid, it's already done, healed, and we moved on far past it. So when it comes down to you've got to do something reactively, you can't just sit around on your ass when someone's calling you a bloody scammer. Suddenly the band-aid's ripped off and you're having to reactively deal with all this nonsense. But why not spin that positively and turn it into an educational experience for the people around us? And so be it. Jaron's the example. He had his chance to retract his lies about me being a liar and his scams about me being a scammer. And he's chosen not to. In fact, he's doubled down it with Facebook comments that I'm not interested in reading, but the guys on the panel absolutely want to go through. They're very passionate about that, which I'm very grateful for. It's them as much as me. But we know who it's mainly directed about. I've been named personally. So ultimately speaking, this is going to be a useful teaching tool. It's something I can get behind with a bit of passion in my blood, which I'm sure the audience can sense the real passion and disdain in my blood when I'm talking about Jaron and how he's wronged me, which is all this boils down to. No pun intended. But there's a teaching opportunity there. And hopefully the passion and disdain for Jaron, in regards to him claiming I'm a scammer for saying science proves, will come across to the audience as we go through the scientific method and its value. And hopefully it'll gen up and lend more credence to it because of the passion that's behind it from all of us. And as I say, I'm very grateful for that. And it's worth going 5 minutes over late into the live show to say that. Anybody got anything to add? Because you're more than welcome. I'm going to go late regardless.
I have something real quick. Continue it because certain people come in the chat calling to end your show. So continue on and let it be a teaching opportunity. But continue dropping the hammer.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, before I introduce our illustrious panel, I'd like to say another massive thank you to my most recent Patreon, who makes it 5 in a row in consecutive days, joining me, giving me extra support at a time that I thought people would be deserting me for speaking out against the scientific invalidity that is the claims of proof of ether using science. And instead, the damage that was done back in 4 years has obviously already been done. And instead, this is going to be more support for being called a scammer by way of people super chatting. And I want to thank you also for your overwhelming support since this has begun. I thought it would massively be to my detriment. I stood corrected when I was hesitant. And 10th Man said, this will help you. I was wrong. He was right. This has definitely helped. Thank you to all my new Patreons. One of them who dropped a bundle on me immediately. I'm overwhelmed and elated because I rely upon the people of Patreon and others in YouTube and AdSense and all that stuff to live on. So I'm very, very, very grateful that the support has increased rather than my livelihood being threatened, which is why I'm so furious with Jaron. But there we go. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Shout out to you, all of you on Patreon. If you want to join me on Patreon, I really appreciate all of your support. There's a link below if you did want to join. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, first, a welcome to 10th Man, of course, and Neil Castelletto. I'll just call him Neil, because I'm a bit overexcited. Adam, Arwin, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded. So, welcome, one and all. Got there in the end.
Good morning.
Costantino.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good morning.
Castellano blah blah. Yeah, that's how I said it.
Good afternoon.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Wouldn't that require an R value?
I'm sure that would require curved water too.
Curved water.
Geometric obstruction. Geometric obstruction.
Yeah,
Where
that's what
is
I'm
it?
asking for.
Yeah, so where is it then, Nathan?
I love
Where's your
it.
geometric obstruction?
Every time I hear Arwin do something like this, right, within a split second, I know instantly what he's doing. So what Arwin's done, correct me if I'm wrong, Arwin, you've used Witzit's trick. You've taken the question and paraphrased it back to me, like I need to answer where the geometric horizon is. The physical obstruction is, well, where is it, Nathan? Yeah, that's what we've been asking for about 4 straight years, Arwin. How is it that you suddenly are paraphrasing this back to me like I should be answering you this question? What the hell?
No, that's a straw man. It's a straw
like it.
man.
He's
like
doing it
this
again.
one in my,
Now he's just trying to antagonise me. Hold on, and Chocolate's rumpusing to add to the confusion. Right, what do you mean I'm strawmanning you? What, with your own claim parroted back to you and then re-paraphrased back to me by you as a defence? How is that a straw man? I'm keeping up so
Well,
far.
you just don't want to answer the question.
Guys, doing a good job, you've got to admit, ladies and gentlemen. Arwin, go and subscribe today just for that third in a row. ARWIJN. He has a show an hour before this show. He's ace, right? This is what makes Arwin fucking ace. So, yeah, okay. I'm just not answering. What was that reply? I can't even remember. I've lost track now.
Well, where the geometric horizon is, where is it, Nathan?
I'm not going to be
like to-
defending that claim.
Can I pull out my citation now?
Sure, sorry, Chocolate.
My citation is the rumpus. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Case closed. Thank you.
Yeah, but in the maths, it's asserting that it's our world. It's called Earth curve maths and is claimed to be the derivation of the physical geometric sphere edge that blocks boats and buildings in the photographs. The bit being in the photographs, we know that's not the case, but go on.
Wait. So we don't live in maps? That maps aren't blocking boats and buildings in the distance? That's what you're saying?
No, the last image
Can't
of
be.
the black swan was an image of 2 oil rigs. This image, which would be derivative, I think this is from AB Science or Simon Dan or someone like that, has got, number 1, it's got 2 horizons. Number 2, it's got your own head in the view. So you're seeing both the target, which would be the picture front on of these 2 oil targets. Well, number 1, they're not one behind the other anymore. They're side by side in orthographic view with your own head in view, with 2 horizons that are single points on a sphere edge in view. We don't see the world like this, but that's where the geometric horizon exists.
Well, chocolate, according to Akumu virus, math is reality.
This is math.
Man.
So, no. Here we go. That's what a horizon really looks like. It's not 2 points, one that's geometric, never to be seen, but also simultaneously claimed to block boats and buildings, and one apparent. That would be the apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea. That's what they had in that diagram just past. Here's a real horizon. You've got 2 oil rigs with the horizon behind them. Well, that's because it's not blocking them. It's not a physical limitation to their view. It's not a hill in the way. It's not Earth curve. Hashtag black swan. Hashtag one horizon.
Chocolate, if you have 3 apples and you take away 5, in reality, how many apples do you have?
I
Negative.
do that because
Okay.
I don't have 5 to take away.
Thank
That's
you
how
very
that
much.
works in
So,
reality.
okay, so now if you have 3 apples in math and you take away 5 in math, how many apples do you have?
That would be -2.
Don't they taste good on that side of the line?
You can't have negative 2 apples. Maths is not reality. It's a description. It's like a language. It's like saying English is reality. Well, no, English is a language. You use it to describe things. But it's not the reality. Neither is maths. Maths is just a way of describing things. It's a language.
So you're saying somebody can't slap me with a bag of 5 or something?
No.
Nah.
Well, negative apples
Oh,
are
man.
kind of pear-shaped, so
Say again, Creation Bear.
I was just saying, negative apples, they're pear-shaped, so just watch out.
It's not a perishing apple, though, is it? A negative apple is an apple for the future when one's redeemed that you can pay off the deficit with, if you want to put it in descriptive terms, and try and actualize that into a physical means of describing how an overdraft isn't actually, you having negative gold back on the old standard. There isn't such thing as negative gold either. But
He said
But you know what's
pear-shaped.
funny? That's the answer you'll get sometimes when I ask that question. Can you take 5 apples for me if I've only got 2? Well, yeah, I can take the 2 and then owe you. Like it's like, no, we're not talking about IOUs, guy. Relax. Just talking about right now, right here in front of me. Can you take 5 if I've only got 2?
the point being that we don't live in the maths of the physical geometric sphere edge horizon that we see in Muppet Vision, as per this donkey dick horizon, second horizon that we don't see at a geometric point they need for R in this diagram on screen being held up to a donkey. In the diagram, you've got the side of your own head, 2 horizons, load of nonsense. That's not where you live. But you can describe it if you want to reify the world into a spherical surface when you can't get R, because this is paradoxically taking away the R you need to bend the horizon with a refracted 7/6R value. You can do that, but it doesn't mean you live in this maths. And Rumpus, our former opponent who likes to lie through his back teeth about what he's claiming, i.e. that there is a geometric horizon blocking the Isle of Man, and then there isn't, it's always been refracted, aka a lie that he told and will never return as a result. It's the kind of thing that you can reify into existence if you choose to do so. We don't live in maths. Maths is a descriptive language.
That was a real complicated way of saying boats don't go over the curve.
So basically, we know it's a thought experiment, and the whole Western world, for the most part, and other parts of this world, have seen the tricks and said, yeah, that's my reality. And then here comes Flat Earth Debate and says, here, let's uncover the tricks. And this is why your show is going to succeed, Nathan, because we're showing people how they've reified math and said it's reality when it's not. Because they didn't show R, they didn't show a geometric horizon that actually blocks things, and they can't.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Another thing they can't show,
Wouldn't that
but
mean
they
my house
say
is
it's
moving?
happening.
Hold on, 10th. Go again. Was that Creation Bear? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to rumpus you there, but 10th. But wouldn't that mean my house was moving
Well,
if there was axial
it dep-
rotation?
yeah, the house on the Earth and the Earth was moving. They both would be moving. Yes.
Hold on. I think I know where Creation Bear's going with this. What he's hoping you'll get led by is the implication that if you're in your garage and it's claimed that the Earth is rotating as a non-inertial turning reference frame, and then you move diagonally, say, across the house to the top bedroom, according to the globe Earth, not only are they moving, they're moving at different speeds. Correct? Is that where you're going with that, Creation Bear?
Hey, you tell me. They're just telling me it's rotating. So,
If
I'm
you
just.
go upstairs, you should technically be going faster, yeah.
Hey, if that's what the experts say.
Any
That
evidence
is
of the
some
distance to the
expert
sun?
type shit.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I was just saying that is some expert type shit.
Well, so far, 2 questions and 2 summaries of 2 questions. We don't see Earth curve blocking anything, and no one's ever experienced Earth rotation, and yet people believe these 2 things.
Well, the
Yeah,
negation
10th.
of the first one actually
I thought
takes out the
flat Earth
second
was supposed to be
because
the.
Hold on. You're stepping on each other. Go ahead, Creation Bear. You go first, then Chocolate.
Yeah, 10th. I was just going to agree with what 10th was saying that apparently flat Earth is the crazy position to take, but different speeds. So just pointing that out. Go on.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Well, no, I was just going to add that the problem with the second question about the first one, because what's supposed to have an axial rotation is a ball. This ball will require a radius, which would. So it's not a ball. It's not a ball spinning. It has to be a ball first.
You go with any scientific evidence of gravity?
Can you define it first?
I'm not claiming it, but the current
Gravity.
definition. Go on.
What's that?
Okay. So that's not going to get answered.
Are you trying?
Well, I'm
Are you
open to.
trying to say gravity? What's that?
You try that one more time. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Thank God you're here, Anthony.
Hell.
Shout out to Travis. I have no idea. Next question.
Let's move on. Any single viable
And
hypothesis
don't fault
from.
me.
Well-
Don't fault me.
Hang on. I was waiting for a pause, but I waited too long. But they've been again. Here's the third one. What is it? I've never observed it. Mass attract mass was the old version. Now there's a new version, but I've never observed what they say it does.
I'll pull out my next citation. We have no idea. Next question. Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's an astrophysicist telling you we don't know what gravity is.
It's the globe priest.
Yeah,
Priest of
science communicator and all of such things. But he tells you straight up and down. I have no idea. Next question. As far as what it is, we don't know. Well then, why do all these people on the internet who call themselves globers or whatever feel the necessity to tell us what it is when the astrophysicists, the globe priests who run around teaching this shit don't know what it is? That's adorable to me.
Sure, but
So far we've proved.
they'll happily throw Neil deGrasse Tyson under the bus, though, won't they? You know, the moment he says something that's in line with heliocentrism and the actual globe rhetoric, but doesn't comport with the anti-flat Earth rhetoric because that standard globe rhetoric that Tyson punts has been overcome by us, they'll just throw him under the bus. Oh, well, he's just not right. We're right with our anti-flat Earth rhetoric.
So far, with all these questions, it proves we live in a false reality that they say is our reality, and we've proven the matrix already.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Hell no.
Can you define what a hypothesis is?
A hypothesis is otherwise known as a scientific prediction. It establishes your supposed cause, that would be an independent variable, of an effect you observed in nature. That would be your dependent variable, otherwise known as the thing you're trying to figure out the effect of. The study is of the dependent variable. It also contains a null, which is the antithesis of your alternative prediction, aka the zero difference result. So you've got a prediction of cause and a zero difference result. Independent variable, dependent variable, everything else which won't be varied will be held constant. That's a hypothesis.
Well,
So in those fields that you mentioned, an independent variable and rigorous testing would involve what?
Rigorous testing would involve putting what has been assumed to cause an effect through the process of varying it to see if it causes it by multiple people in multiple scenarios. So you can validate empirically that there's been nothing done incorrectly in the method. As long as the method's been followed, it's not actually necessary to do it more than once, but men are fallible and you've got to try and figure out if there's anything we've done incorrectly. So you do it over and over and over and over again and hope that along the way people will ask further questions that will expand your scientific knowledge and develop more experimentation to be done upon discovery of new phenomena. So that's the process
trouble.
of science. Go on, Adam.
That's going to be the trouble in those fields. You're going to have plenty of dependent variables, phenomena that you can witness. But if you're going to then try and put any of those fields into experiment and vary anything, that's going to be your issue. That's probably still why we're still waiting for a hypothesis.
which means you can come up with hypotheses all day, but to have an actual viable one would be a problem. Which is why that word viable is in that question, right?
Sure, but you haven't got to have that many things fulfilled to be a viable hypothesis. In fact, really only two when you break it down. One is a phenomena observed in nature, otherwise known as something that you've looked at and go, I wonder why that happens. Now, if you look at something and go, I wonder why that happens, and it turns out that it's a windmill made by a man, you can say a man made a windmill. You know what the cause is. You can see the effect. That's synthetic, technology-based, which is fine. People have to troubleshoot technology to make it work better. It's just not science. It's technology. Troubleshooting. Okie dokie. Now, if you go out and go, I wonder why that happens looking at rain, that's a natural phenomena. So that's a dependent variable. Something you've observed to happen. Well, that's half the hypothesis already. The only other thing you need is an assumed cause of that effect. And that has to fulfill a couple of criteria. One is that it's going to be, first and foremost, the thing that you actually write down in this hypothesis. Yeah? So if I say how much soil I stand on, yeah, or how how loosely compacted the soil is beneath my feet, I can say, okay, that's something I can vary. Pretty crap. But it's real, and it's going to be the thing that I actually do vary. So if I write down density of soil beneath feet, that's what you've actually got to vary. Not anything else, only that, because it's an independent variable. Well, that's the full hypothesis. Your presumed cause of the effect and the effect. Other than that, you've got the zero difference result written alongside. Zero difference meaning nothing happens. You vary how much the soil beneath your feet is squidging beneath your feet, and it doesn't cause it to rain. Well, that's also the prediction that gets written down. If soil variation, no rain. But that's a zero difference result, otherwise known as a null. If A, not B. So because they both are written down alongside one another in the hypothesis, you've then got an empirical outcome at the end when it's actualized, which is to say you vary the thing you think causes the effect and see if it causes it. If it doesn't, you validate, that would be prove, your zero difference result. If A, not B. If I vary the soil, I don't get it to rain. Proven. I varied the soil and it didn't make it rain. Proven. Done. Tick. Anyway.
So when they claim black holes and dark matter, if they can't vary and manipulate, it's just a philosophy, right?
Well, it's an observe and declare situation. So they say, mistakenly, we can, if they have even supposed a cause, substitute an explanation which is validating empirically that you know what causes the effect you're studying with just the hypothesis. So a hypothesis without the experiment is a supposition of cause, but you can rephrase it slightly. In some cases, you don't even have to reword it, which is if A then B, where if A is the variation of your presumed or supposed cause of the effect. But if you just say that, well, if A, then B. Suddenly, with a high-pitched intonation, my hypothesis becomes a statement. If A, then B. So if I vary how much the squidginess of my soil is beneath my feet, then it'll rain. Suddenly, my hypothesis isn't a hypothesis that's a supposition of cause anymore. It's a statement of an explanation. Whereas in reality, it hasn't been varied to validate that it causes it. That's the problem we're in at the moment in Flat Earth. We've got people in our community who have realised that you've only got to change the intonation of what you state when you come up with a just so story that sounds like it's got science attached to it, with words like experiment. And all they're really doing is coming up with a story, if A, then B. That's a story until you vary A and see if it causes B. But you can say it in such a way that you've got experiments. And those experiments might be the very thing that you're studying. The effect in the windmill. Well, why does the windmill do what it does? Well, number one, we already established that. It was a man that made it. It's not something occurring in nature that it needs concernment with because it's been man-made. It's been troubleshot. It's been technologically advanced as opposed to scientifically. So if that's not the phenomena we're studying and it isn't going through the method, it's not to be concerned with. And talk to people on a technology forum rather than an Earth forum.
So Nathan, all these things that are claimed, and the tagline to it is scientist says, science proves, it's just observe and declare until they're able to manipulate the IV and have a viable hypothesis?
Well, if they have, they could lay it out and we could put it through the method, which would be to say we vary A and see if it causes B or not. But we haven't got that because we have the just so story they assert. Well, the reason that light is performing the way it does in the telescope is because the light is bending through a fourth dimensional space-time in this maths. Well, that's not them varying a cause to see why the light is doing what it does in a telescope, is it? That's a just so story based on a fourth dimensional reified world that we don't exist in, causing the effect of the light that we observed. That's a just so story with a seeming to be hypothesis mistaken for an explanation, intentionally. Speaking of skies and stars and telescopes, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Nope.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
I mean, where do they even get that idea from?
I don't know. I know the backstory that they've got alongside it, but I don't know where it originates from. Sorry. Anybody know where Molten Iron Core is originating from?
Well, it's like they've changed their story already. I saw an article recently that was like, "Oh, just kidding. We thought's down there. Something else." I'll see if I can find it, but yeah, just
This is-
making stuff up, obviously.
Well, the Molten Iron Core being a science textbook, and if something doesn't line up with the story for whatever reason, it's far easier to both declare that science has proven we've got a molten iron core in the textbook labelled science, and say science doesn't prove anything. It only disproves things, so we're only trying to advance ourselves. When we get it wrong, that's what science for, getting it wrong, and now we're going to get it right with our new Just So story.
Here's a headline. Scientists discover the Earth's inner core isn't solid or liquid. It's super ionic.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Hey, Chocolate, are you somewhere quiet?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet where I am.
Okay, got a couple more
Why does it sound
housekeeping
to you
questions.
guys?
I'll do a proper introduction to what we'll be doing shortly. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
See question 1.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Angle, you say?
Angle, 2 straight lines, yeah, with a vertex.
If you could just get past the flat plane, I could show you how it's a sphere.
Wasn't that almost a verbatim quote from Protothad?
Basically, yeah. It's paraphrased slightly, but yeah.
We also had the same rebuttal from Zanuck when he sneaked
yep.
back in once. Go on, Chocolate.
Something you were hung up on.
The details.
Yeah, don't get hung up on
Yeah,
that flat plane, was Zanuck's reply. When we were like, well, how are you going to get an elevation angle measurement if you haven't got a flat plane beneath your feet? Don't get hung up on the flat plane bit.
Yeah, that has me in stitches.
I said, what if we wanted to just use the sphere first? I mean, why don't we do that? Oh, yeah, we turn it to a flat plane. Oh, okay. That seems useful then.
Might be an
And the
opportune moment for
means-
John. Go on, John. Can you ask your question? Because this is going to get refined over time, but that kind of concludes the housekeeping. Go on, John.
And the means by which you get past the flat plane is you ignore it and then apply the Habersign formula to it after you've ignored it.
And measured it.
Yeah, after you measured it, you've modeled it as flat, measured it as flat. Ignore all that and just apply the Habersign formula and you're fine.
Right, I forgot the modelled it bit. You need it to be flat to model the celestial sphere. So after you've ignored it and then measured it as flat, and then ignored that you've measured it as flat, and then plotted that flat measurement into a flat map that was derived from flat measurements, and then ignored it, then you can apply the Habersign formula to all of that flatness to give you the sphere. I mean, we've kind of got a question semi-refined, which is, what are you applying the Habersign formula to? That's a spherical conversion. If Earth's a sphere, the answer being they're applying it to a flat plane. That conversion to spherical from the flat plane they measure. That does conclude the housekeeping. Jolly good stuff. Chocolate.
Give me a second.
Give you a few seconds. Okay. Well, I'll do a warm up. So yesterday we were still chatting away after hours on G Plus for whatever reason, and it was brought to my attention that I'm being slandered on. I shouldn't really laugh about this, but it's backfired no matter what. I can't really deny the fact that this has gained me more traction, more money, more everything in terms of positives, it's all gone very nicely for me at this point. Nevertheless, Jaron's attacking me on Facebook, so I'm told. Now, when I was told that this has all been posted in Skype, and I was asked, have you read it? I was like, no, I haven't read any of this. I'm not interested. The guy said to me, why would I read this? No. So, in any event, the people who did read it were like, no, well, we want to react to it. So, based on that, I haven't actually listened to it being read out in full, but now it's going to be you'll hear my reaction to it for the first time, because I wandered off while they were discussing it on the what would we call that? An after show, private call, whatever we call it. But yeah, the guys wanted to go through it, and Chocolate's volunteered. I say he's volunteered. There was a lot of discussion to actually read out the text in the first instance, and then we're going to discuss it after the fact, if that's okay with everybody. If you are in Gilded, please pop yourself on mute. If you're in G+, again, if you can pop yourselves on mute, I'll do the same. Chocolate will read through it, and then we'll go through it piece by piece. Chocolate, I've bought you enough
show
time.
that you didn't let me know about.
That means if you are in G+, say it one more time, a little bit slower. Please stay on mute. Chocolate, do you need me to buy you a few more minutes?
No, I'm good. How do I sound?
Sound great.
Is it quiet? Is it quiet enough?
Perfect.
Most of the
Sound great.
coworkers took off today. All right, cool. So just to preface this, I received a message a few days ago from someone. Shout out to Steven, who sent me this. He's been a friend for a while, a long time subscriber to the show. Always hits me up with good stuff. And he sent me this message on Facebook, which was a link to, I guess, Jaron's Facebook, where he had a nice diatribe against Nathan and us. And I'm just going to read it out, just so you know. I mean, it's public information. It's on Facebook, so I don't think it should be a problem. So here we go. Jaron Campanella. Isn't it sad we have to navigate this world by dealing with scumbag scammers around every corner? They may seem nice at first, but you realize quickly that they are monsters. Disgusting, garbage humans that care for no one but themselves. Vile, gross, pathetic excuses for men are everywhere, so Nathan Oakley isn't special. Just another turd on the ground you should walk around. Because once on your shoe, it becomes cumbersome to scrape off. You see, what scammers do is they find a target and realize, oh, look, I can get more than 1,000 views if I start talking shit about this guy. I'll put his face in my thumbnails and name and description because that's the only way to get anyone to watch my tired nonsense. Please share the show. It's fun. 10th Man comes up off Nathan's junk a few times a show. Basically, to summarize, that he was just down there measuring angles. Arwen might show up to rage quit and throw things. FEH, in parentheses, Flat Earth Homos, used to be a decent show. Until Nathan couldn't get views anymore and decided to become a yelling, screaming garbage slinger. Did a whole video about me saying I'm doing this or that because of Ether. Yeah, you heard me, because you know how much I talk about Ether. But expect it. When all someone has is a mute button and strawmans, you can bet that person truly has nothing. Want an example of how the good person he is? He writes me a sob story about how me calling him a scammer is taking food off his plate. So I'm thinking, maybe he's an idiot who actually believes the crap coming out of his mouth. So I attempt to listen to his show, and he says he hopes I get hit by a bus. Real good person over there. I'm supposed to care about taking food off of his family's plates, while this guy hopes my family grows up without a dad or husband at all. Garbage human. Notice the trend. It's all a show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the only way for Nathan to get over 1,000 views. So expect it. He won't stop scamming, even using flat earth fights to get eyes on his shit show. Word of advice. If you've been doing a daily show for 7 years and you get 1,000 views, quit. Now, regarding water boiling at 100 C, because Oakley said so, shh, Nobody tell dumbfuck his assertions are false, because all he can do is double down. There are actually all sorts of variations in the boiling temperature of water. For example, there are differences of several degrees depending on the material of the container in which the boiling takes place. And removing dissolved air from water can easily raise the boiling temperature by about 10 degrees centigrade. So Nathan, if you need money to feed your family, period, then make a bet. 5K. Loser leaves YouTube. The bet is simple. You and I go into a lab or wherever you choose, and we heat up 3 things of water. If they all boil at exactly 100 C, you win. But when all of a sudden you have to worry about what the container they are in, and you realize water boils at 98, 99, 101, 103, then give me my money and get the fuck out of here. No room for scammers here telling people water boils at 100 C. What kind of world does this clown think we live in? Define boil. Burst bubble? Oil bubbles? Ceramic pot? Aluminum? Teflon? Distilled water? Tap water? Same thermometer? Any thermometer. But science proves water boils at 100 C at 1 ATM, atmosphere. If you believe that, then you might want to go look into the globe again, because obviously you love unproven nonsense spouted by those who love men. But he will never bet me because he needs views to feed his babies, and the only way to do that will be to use my name for a month. Scammy Brits. And that's the end of his post.
Who the fuck
Now-
is that guy?
Hey, no need.
Are you freaking
No need.
kidding
No
me?
need. Let's keep it
Okay,
civil.
right.
Let's keep it civil.
Hey, hold on.
Neil,
One at a time. Right. Whoever
Phil,
swore,
Okay.
try to not swear. But you can go first, whoever that was.
Hold on. Let me finish it off by
Okay.
the guy who sent it to me. He sent me this along with a note after I said thanks for sharing that. He says, "No problem, brother. Just so you know, I'm not sending this to you in the hopes of stirring the shit pot. I simply wanted this to reach Nathan so he's up to date with the current nonsensical rhetoric. Seems to me that Jaron and Bob are much better off dealing with their own internal issue, as if science proves things or doesn't prove things, rather than attacking Nathan and crew. They, in my eyes, have a much more pressing issue to deal with one another instead of addressing Nathan and Nathan's panel. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. And that's that."
So the guy who sent it you immediately identified what has actually been claimed. Science
immediately.
proves, and in the example, heat is the independent variable. The quantitative versus the qualitative. So the quality that we're assessing is the independent variable we manipulate. Now he's given us a few more in that I didn't write them down. I never carry a pen. I'm so unorganized. Can anybody remember the list of extra things he gave us that could vary?
Hold on a sec. But he's already conceded that the heat will cause the water to boil. Now he's just trying to nitpick at what temperature it will happen.
Sure, but
Based
I've
on-
just covered that. So, okay, qualitative versus quantitative. Who wants to cover that? Clearly nobody.
That's what I was. Well, no, I was getting ready to say that's the problem that he's in right now, and that's why he's trying to push a straw man of something else, like he doesn't need. I'm getting feedback. He needs to be able to assert that these other variables will affect the temperature at which the water will be boiling and argue over what boiling is. But he's conceding that heat will cause water to boil. So he's already lost the argument. Now he's just trying to nitpick after he's conceded.
I find the irony of that is that he's going to use an empirical scientific method to demonstrate to Nathan that science doesn't prove anything.
Interesting, huh?
So yeah, the purpose of the method is to isolate an singular independent variable, vary it, and see if it causes the effect you're studying, in this case boiling water. So Jaron's mistakenly thinking, well, we've got to get the water boiling first with the heat. It's like, God. I don't know. I haven't thought about this, but can we actually dumb this down any further for Jaron? We've already covered it, and he said in this message, it seemed like he'd listened to the show when we covered the soil content that he raised last time. So we all varied the soil, obviously keeping everything else constant. That's how the method works. The word independent should give the game away. It's a variable that's on its own, alone, without anything else changing. So Jaron adding in, well, what about if this changes? Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we've got to vary the what to see if that causes it to boil. Now, the reason I've included 100 degrees C at sea level is to state that there are controls. They aren't necessary in a hypothesis. Water will boil if heat's applied, right? That's simple stuff. I thought I'd dumbed it down enough for the guy. Clearly not. Okay, no worries. I mean, I'll try and dumb it down a bit further. But we can add all of the variables you like through the method, one at a time, by holding everything else constant and varying the container we put the water in, Jaron. Yeah? No, it's not exactly something that you'd find in nature, causing water to boil, but that's fine. We'll make the exception for you because we're dumbing it down, and we're going to use synthetic stuff because you've introduced them. No problem. So what we'll do, Jaron, to go through the empirical method that can only prove things as a result of using it correctly, is vary the bowls as an independent. You writing this down, Jaron? Have you got a pen? I'll just give Jaron a minute to get a pen. Independent. So if we're varying what bowl we've got the water in, we're not going to be varying anything else. We all clear? So just for Jaron, for the second time, this video's been trimmed out and will come out over the weekend. If you remember, you can check it out now. I'm not scamming you. I'm just demonstrating how science proves things. We'll vary Jaron's independent variable after we've formulated a hypothesis. We've still got half of it already established. DV, boiling water. A natural phenomena that we're trying to figure out the cause of. Okay? So, Jaron said bowl type. Independently going to be varied. You'll have a type of bowl and I'll have a type of bowl. Have we all got different bowls? I've got one that's ceramic. We'll say that 10th man's got one that's glass. We'll say that Arwin's got one that's plastic. Adam's got one that's Bakelite. We'll even have one that's made of chocolate. We all happy with our bowls, lads? We varied them enough. We're going to vary bowl as an independent variable. Jaron's, I mean, I was going to say, I've got to keep it civil. I was going to say dumb, stupid, idiotic, moronic, ignorant, but I won't. At Jaron's request, we've now got an independent variable of bowl type. So just let me give it a sec.
Like I said, the irony of all of that.
I'm going to do this. I'm just going to get my composure, Adam. I'm sorry. I will be able to shoot my face off through this, I promise. Okay, so let's go through this for Jaron. We're going to formulate the hypothesis. If bowl, then water boiling. This is called an alternative hypothesis, aka if A, then B. If bowl, then water boiling. Water boiling. I'm gonna get my composure, I promise. Okay, we've also got to formulate the null, which is if bowl variation, then not water boiling. Okay, so only one outcome can be proven at the end of this process, because in both instances we vary bowl, and we see if it does or does not cause water to boil. Now we've got two predictions. We're either going to prove our null or prove our alternative. We all ready, lads? Let's all pour the water into our varying different types of bowls. Everybody done it? Yep.
Mine's not boiling.
Anybody confirm the alternative? Anybody get the water to boil?
No.
So we all, in our systematic experimentation, varied our independent variable of bowl at Jaron's request, and it didn't cause the effect, Jaron. Obviously, we won't be varying altitude or temperature because they become constant variables, meaning they're constant when we vary our single, alone, independent variable of bowl, because that's how the method works. Now, obviously, given that we know the bowl doesn't cause the water to boil, we're going to keep the bowl as a plastic one. I mean, obviously that might cause a problem when we apply heat, but we'll find that out later when we use heat as our independent variable. It might come with some constraints when we try and heat up our glass bowl or plastic bowl, but obviously that's a problem that we'll deal with, and obviously something we might overcome by way of systematic experimentation, you know, to get around these problems. But nevertheless, when we vary our independent variable of heat, I'm pretty damn sure that when we vary that as opposed to bowl, we're going to get the heat to make the water boil. Now, given that I also stated at what parameters, so I could state control variables, things that will not change, that would be at sea level, meaning you're not going to be going up in a hot air balloon with a stove. Yeah? You're keeping it at the same altitude, therefore the same pressure. Keeping things constant, other than heat, will vary heat. Did we vary heat? Should we do that now, lads? Just because Jaron, obviously, at the end of this very tedious and very dumbed down explanation for our science can only prove things, we're going to take the actual cause of water boiling through the method also, just for Jaron. Because any reasonable man here is going to be like Jaron, aren't they? They're going to say, you can't just say water boils at 100 degrees C. That's temperature, aka induced from heat, Jaron. Yeah? That prerequisite variable that you've assumed when you ask me about whether varying the bowl will change things. No, we've still got the heat though, haven't we? As opposed to not having the heat, keeping it at maybe 30 degrees on a sunny day, and just changing the bloody bowl. I won't lose my temper with Jaron like I lost my temper with him when I said he could go to hell when we were talking on Skype. Yeah? I told him he could go to hell, and he laughed in my face and said he didn't believe in hell. So I later said, I'm trying to get my disdain while I'm spitting feathers through what I'm saying at you, across to you. I'm upset and angry at you. So saying you can be hit by a bus, Jaron, is me trying to get through to a laughing clown who's ignorant as all hell that you've made me very angry when you've called me a scammer, not because I've said water boils at 100 degrees C, which any reasonable man understands and knows is true at sea level, but the heat is the cause proven by varying it as an independent variable, Jaron. That means that you vary something you assume causes a phenomena, in this case, boiling water, and see if it causes it. So you can vary the salt content, Jaron, as you wisely suggested, because you're very clever at coming up with things to vary, and we can put each one of them independently through the method, holding all things constant. So if we vary soil, it doesn't cause water to boil, Jaron. But we prove that soil doesn't cause water to boil when we prove our null prediction. So we still proved that water wasn't caused to boil by soil, Jaron. We still proved that. And that's what you're calling me a scammer for. And that's why I've got you saying, well, Nathan, you know he's a scammer. Well, because when he goes around saying science proves things, science doesn't prove anything. So that is what our issue is here, Jaron. That's what I'm demanding a retraction for. It's what you are batshit insane crazy for stating when I will go through indefinitely, not a month, not to get views, because it's useful as a tool to teach you directly. I can talk to you as an individual. You represent a very, very stupid audience member, and I know that my audience is far more intelligent than that. And Chocolate knows it because he's being told it by people who are communicating with him. And I am. They're all telling me the same thing. They're a loss based on your stupidity in this regard. They can't quite believe that someone that they liked and respected could be this stupid, Jaron. That's where we're at. But as a result, I can and will indefinitely dumb this down to the point that you, with your very, very low intelligence level, can understand that in an either or prediction with logic behind it, if A, then B, or if A, not B, only one can and will be proven. That's our issue. That's what I'm demanding a retraction for. I'm not requesting a debate with a clown, moronic, ignorant fool about what temperature water boils at, because temperature infers we know the cause. And that's what science does, Jaron. Proves the cause. In this case, heat. Not soil, not salt, not bowl type. Heat. Required to make the water boil when holding all things constant. Independent variable, Jaron. A prediction that only has tick proven as an outcome, Jaron. That's the issue, Jaron. And yeah, you are absolutely threatening the livelihood of my children when you claim I'm a scammer for saying, rightfully so, that science proves things. I'll demonstrate it till I'm blue in the face, humiliating you in the process. Because A, metaphorically speaking, because obviously Jaron's too stupid to understand, I'd hope you get hit by a bus, meaning you're dead to me, man. You're dead to me. That's what it means. You're too stupid to understand that. There is no hope for you. But you're still useful as a popular clown to demonstrate how wrong you are about what science does and does not do when you say it doesn't prove things, and I'm a scammer for saying it does. Hope we're all clear. I'm sure we all lost the track of actual Chocolate saying, going through every other point. I'm so sorry, Chocolate, to distracted everyone away from your beautiful dulcet tones in reading that out, and I thank you for doing so.
Over, mate.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I hope this server gets banned again because, like, look what happened on Discord. Discord kicked y'all ass out of there. Like, damn, you guys still believe that Earth is a CD in space? Shit.
Nobody believed that. You're retarded.
I want Nathan Oakley to come back on VC real quick so I could get his autograph for being a jackass on Discord. No, hold on a second. You guys like to run your show, be dick and shit and stuff. Hey, guys, stop
I've been
chatting.
playing music this whole time. Just relax. Take a back seat.
Hello.
Yeah, go
That's
away,
fine.
dude.
So, Jeremiah.
I'm here.
Yeah, we've just got a couple of things.
What happened to the other server was because they were spreading all sort of misinformation on COVID-19 and all that shit. They were spreading
So what he wants to do is do that right away here. Server ban this person. So what's got you banned on Discord is a load of wankers coming in and spreading disinformation about X, Y, and Z that inadvertently I'm going to do here now on this server. Whoever is in as a moderator, please can you server ban this person immediately? Thank you.
I just want to, you guys need to be.
We're not going to do anything, dummy. You're just going to go away.
Different guy.
Continue your mental breakdown somewhere else.
Okay. So thank you, Chocolate. We'll try and get this train wreck back on track. There was a fundy that wanted to obviously take down this server in the same way some wanker came along and took down the Discord server, which I wasn't going to necessarily discuss, but it's been brought up beyond my control by a Glober who's got verbal diarrhea about Discord servers and how they get shut down, which he wants to broadcast now live for me on YouTube. Total asshole. Yeah, deserves to be immediately banned from the server. That's not tolerated. Get lost. How dare you? One asshole. Anyway, Chocolate. I'm sure people want to talk about your excellent rendition of what was a pretty disgusting thing to listen to, but there we go. It's not the first thing I've had from Jaron in the last week, because I say science proves things, not because I'm arguing about what temperature water boils at.
Well, I want to point out something about Jaron and what he did. Is he publicly called you a scammer, damaging your livelihood, and then he compared that to a private conversation with you, where you're furious that he did it, and and somehow comparing them as if it's in any way comparable. You know, like he actually did something that affects you. You just said something because you were angry with him in private. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so
Unless he just doesn't know the difference anymore.
I'll just say having to read that was kind of felt gross a little bit, just because it's like I couldn't believe that that what I'm reading is from who I'm reading it from. You know what I mean? It's crazy that this has gotten to this point. And for him to talk about your family and money, you know, your babies, and like, to me, that just, I lose a lot of respect for a man after doing shit like that. You know, calling people liars and, you know, asshole, that's fine. You know, but once you get into like calling somebody a scammer, especially when you have no proof of such thing, you're just saying that because you're mad. To me, it's really immature to me.
Or just projecting.
And to think about it, I mean, this is a fight over boiling water. This is where we at in 2022, and you make fun of the 10th man and talk about angles, but here you are with boiling water, and you can't work that out. So
I don't think it's a fight about boiling water. I think it goes a little deeper.
Yeah,
than that.
obviously it's
Pride.
yes, but
Pride,
I'd like
baby,
to-
pride.
Okay, hang on, Neil. Adam, if you're here, can you please say what you said earlier? Because that was spot on.
I'm not sure what I said. I'll just say what.
Get closer to the mic when you do.
Yeah, sorry. The first part, I've got no. You heard it yourself. It's not worthy of rebuttal. The latter part, I look forward to it. If I'm being honest, doesn't need to be a challenge, but if Jaron can set up an experiment where he's going to vary the container and demonstrate the different temperatures that the same water will boil at, and if you can do that in an empirical method, then I'd concede that demonstrates in a scientific way that water does boil at different temperatures in different containers.
Don't want to do that. I've got to stop you. I'm really sorry.
Well, let me finish. He would have proven that, yeah, in an empirical way if he does it with experiment, yeah. He would prove that, but what he does in doing so negates his whole argument of being here. That's the contradiction in it.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry to talk over you. We're getting close to the end of the live show. Adam's saying I could take Jaron at his word and say, okay, I'll take you up on your offer, Jaron. No worries. We'll obviously define terms. We're going to do experiments. Okay, so we're going to be doing hypothesis tests. Okay, this is science. Brilliant. So we're only going to have one independent variable. Your query and concern is that there's different bowls. No problem. We've already done it on this show. Bowl is going to be your independent variable. When you start putting Bunsen burners under stuff, I'll say, what the hell are you doing? You got two variables. That's not independent, man. Don't you understand how science works? Well, maybe I'll do it on camera with you, Jaron, with us standing next to each other. Yeah? When you snatch your own wig off and start sticking heat underneath things, I'll say, what are you doing? You're varying the heat as well as the container. That doesn't sound like you understand what the word independent means, Jaron. And I'll get you to shut down your channel. I don't want to take food off your kids. Yeah, I'm just getting as angry as I did with him on Skype. Let's try and contain myself. I don't want to take food off your table, Jaron. I don't want to shut down your channel and humiliate you, as I've just metaphorically done by winning that bet. Because when it came to the terms of the bet, when you say experiment, we're talking about actualization of hypotheses. If it's science. So under those terms, you've already lost your channel, Jaron. So I'll take it in Bitcoin, mate. Yeah? How much did he say he was going to give me? You don't have to shut down your channel, but I'm desperate for the money, Jaron. I'm poor as all fuck. Yeah, and it does affect me when you publicly call me a scammer. It's an absolute outrage. That's why I'm demanding a retraction for it and going out of my way to prove how wrong you are. With example after example after example. Not because I need your name in my bloody videos. I'd rather be dealing with globers than with flat earthers. And why? Because this is the reality, right? Jaron in this arena, as my heart beats at about 150 BPM, can do significantly more damage to me than any glober who disagrees with me. So from internally, Jaron could end me. And he damn well knows it, don't you, Jaron? You could end my channel, right? You could easily do it. You've got a big, nice audience that could just turn against me at any moment just because you turn against me. And that's what you're proceeding to do, isn't it, Jaron? Essentially, take the food out of my kids' mouths. Yeah, while they're screaming in the background. Yeah, I feed them with this. That's what I do for a living. And you are directly threatening that, Jaron. That's why I was spitting feathers with you, losing my temper with you, as you chuckle your little fundy balls off at me getting really angry with you, telling me not to cry about it. Yeah, there's been a few tears shed, Jaron, because I see my livelihood going down the toilet because you can't concede that science proves things. So what, are you going to take a man's livelihood from him for that? Yeah, obviously I'm upset about it. Yeah, obviously I'm going to tell you to go to hell. Do you think that requires you to respond? I don't believe in hell, with some non sequitur when you're threatening my bloody career that I've built up. No. So I up the ante and say, I wish you'd be hit by a bus. Yeah, metaphorically speaking, meaning you're dead to me, as a consequence of this outrageous actions you've taken against me. So what are you going to take to Facebook now? Why? Because science proves things? Not because of ether. I've juxtaposed you saying science doesn't prove and I'm a scammer because I say it does, with Bob saying science proves ether. It's a juxtaposition with your own side so that they start getting angry. Now, they've obviously projected that anger directly onto me, when in reality, I've got you saying you're a scammer if you say science proves. So that works very nicely next to the old wound of Bob, when it's an outrage and it's just ridiculous to focus on the fact that he hasn't got any proof for his ether because he's claiming science when he hasn't got any. Much more useful to have you saying he's a bloody scammer for saying he's got proof with his science. But you want to turn it into whether water boils, or whether or not you're claiming ether, or whether or not I'm a horrible man for saying I hope you die. No, Jaron, in reality, I'd mourn if you died. I had, past tense, respect for you. And that would be remembered if you died. I don't wish that upon you in reality. I'm trying to convey my disdain. Now, that is 99% fear-based. Most people have the same reaction. I am not shy self-analysing my own monsters. They come out through fear. That's what this is, Jaron. My fear. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm terrified of losing my career that I've built up over the last 7 years because you've got an issue with scientific proof. That's the last cross I want to die on, and I'll fight to the death. That's what I'll do, Jaron. I'll fight you on this. And if I go down in flames, I'll go down in flames saying science unequivocally proves things, while you tell your audience of hundreds of thousands that I'm a scammer for saying it. No worries. I said to you at the end of our discussion, game on, mate. If that's how this has got to end, no problem. You'll see what tasting my balls is actually like. Do I want to dangle them in your mouth, mate? No, I do not. I want to get on with the business of dealing with Globe and the whole rhetoric that we've been deceived from as a Western world person. Not you in this tiny little pond. I've got bigger fish to fry. But unfortunately, you, as the tiny fish on YouTube with a couple of hundred measly thousand subs, when there's people out there with 11 and 12 million, I don't think it's massive when you're not. Comparatively, we're the same in that regard. But in the small pond, you can definitely end me in the way Bob nearly did 4 years ago for saying this exact same stuff. So yeah, I'm scared and I'm going to lash out and say things like go to hell. Oh, hell doesn't exist. Ha ha ha. It won't work out well for you coming against me, the big YouTuber. All right. Yeah, really rub that salt in, Jaron. Thanks. Yeah, you want me scared, don't you? Well, okay. Nothing more terrifying than a cornered animal, because I'll scrape your eyes out. I'm done.
Well said, Nathan. I'm totally with you. I mean, if I would in a personal call let's just say that Ranty would talk to me like that, right? And he kind of has. Yeah. Then I throw out everything I got, right? And if he says, oh, I'm not afraid of hell. Well, if you're not afraid of hell, well, maybe then you'll just be afraid of death instead. right? Because you're just trying to get to him. Like, hey, what are you doing, man? Why are you doing this? I'm
It's
pretty sure
projection.
that you don't want to be
It's
enemies
my
with
projection.
Jaron.
My fear projected onto Jaron. I want you to be scared of something. I want you to be scared of death or hell. Like I'm scared of losing my career because I'm being called a scammer for saying science proves.
Exactly.
I can't even speak. So.
What a lovely day!
Science doesn't prove things.
No, to prove something, to disprove Nathan with regards to how water boils.
Well, but if science doesn't prove things,
so in winning that argument over Nathan, it would undo his initial supposition that science doesn't prove things, wouldn't it? Because he'd have gone and used science to prove something to disprove Nathan.
Right. He'd
right,
have to go.
but-
It's self-defeating in as much as he's got to say, "Ha! I proved it. Therefore, I win." I really proved it. Yeah. Hand over your money. Shut down your channel. Fuck off.
Science doesn't prove
Get $5,000.
And if each of those scenarios, like the different bowls, right, and the different types of water, you could establish what temperature or what type of bowl you would need to get the water to boil. And then you could repeat that, right? And then you'd have an established cause to your effect, right? With every scenario. So you would essentially be proving that in each scenario, these are the parameters you have, and there you have boiling water. So again, it just defeats his point. It's weird.
To try and, you don't need to imagine here the scenario or the experiment or the hypothesis. You just need to realize what's being set up to prove that water doesn't boil at 100 degrees. If there's a different pot, fine. Yeah, but in doing so, where you prove it is with science. Having just said that science doesn't prove things, it is ultimately self-defeating of the first argument to win the second.
Science doesn't prove anything.
That is that my boy Vsauce, who has a whole channel of things talking about science.
Yeah, it's science channel that doesn't prove anything.
You gotta love this.
It is
Yeah,
a
science
three-dimensional.
YouTube channels don't prove anything. Sorry?
I wasn't
It is
there
a
yesterday.
three-dimensional.
Or breaking up slightly.
I like the way Nathan expressed, because I don't think Jaron understands. And by the way, Jaron, if you're listening, I've asked the Lord not to hold to your account what you said about me, so because I do believe in hell, so you'll have a little less suffering.
I
hope you
asked
don't.
to strike down.
I hope you don't. I hope you don't go there, though. But anyway, I like what Nathan said. It's an independent variable. So if you get all the same bowls and you apply heat, but all the other things being constant, let's see what happens then. But you're saying you want to apply heat, raise it, lower it, and change bowls. That's no longer independent variable. I hope you see the simplicity of this.
I wouldn't try and get into whatever he's claiming. Let him, if there's something that Jaron feels to be demonstrated there, then let him demonstrate it. Like I said, whatever's to be demonstrated is kind of irrelevant. Because fundamentally, that proves something, doesn't it?
No, I agree. That's what I mean. He already lost by wanting to do it. I get it.
He's actually proving that he does not know what the hell the scientific method is.
Well, to be fair, guys, I've heard Jaron in the past pretty much verbatim repeat what Nathan and Kiwi have been talking about with the scientific method, and then he agreed. So whatever's going on right now, something weird, because it's not because he doesn't understand. He does. He's just choosing to discard it. That's what
he
I
Compromise.
He said it in his last video, or one of the last videos. Well, then I saw Zach's experiment, and the piece of paper floated in the Van de Graaff generator. So, yeah, he proved it. Well, how can he even say that?
And it's just separating the wheat and the tare. That's all this is doing.
Well, even if you perform an experiment and you establish the independent variable, your cause is the cause that causes your dependent variable. What he's saying basically is, well, even if you've established that cause, you really haven't. You know why? Because you haven't established that every parameter other than your supposed cause could be another cause. So therefore, you can never establish that in that one experiment that's the cause.
Didn't Rumpus
if you find another variable,
hold on, didn't Rumpus argue exactly that same point with the complex hypothesis nonsense
Complex
like 3
hypothesis.
years ago?
Yes,
This is Rumpus's
That's
argument.
exactly what I thought of when I heard him say that 3 days ago. Same thing that Rumpus argued too. You could have multiple hypotheses.
Well, you know, I mean, this is
crazy. What's up?
I mean, this is hey guys. I mean, it's simple. I obviously I agree with this because it's an ironclad methodology until you try to step outside of it, which we've defined as pseudoscience. If you're going to be trying to use this method but incorrectly, that's what that's called, pseudoscience. If you have some other approach to knowledge, that's also fine. But when you're talking about the natural world and you're talking about here's an effect, all we're saying is, okay, this causes that. What is the natural phenomena observed? Okay, you're going to vary the independent variable. It's not that it has to be a specific temperature. It's not that it's like, this specific boils at this degree, whatever. You vary the heat to get the boil. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's not even an argument to be had. Like you guys said, we've already admitted, yes, heat is the cause. Now we're just talking about, but how much is it? That's kind of ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But that's just me.
No, it's not just you, bro.
You know what I think the weirdest thing about this entire situation, especially with Jaron, is that this is so untypically him. In the past, he's always been like, look, we all have differences and we just got to figure it out. And this is just really unlike him to do all this. He's always tried to be a neutral person and when it came like to infighting type situation every time. And now he's not. I don't get it. What's happened?
Not no
What's
more.
changed?
He's an official piece of shit.
It's very constructive. Thanks.
No,
I just want to know
that's very on
what
point.
changed. Yeah, but just turning to a piece of shit is not a very enlightening insight. I want to know what happened for him to change the way
Call
he
him up and
typically
ask him.
does things. That's why I'm saying it right now. Because Jaron's probably going to listen.
All you freaking peacemakers out there. Did you hear what he said? Am I the only one that heard this?
No, I didn't hear it while I read it out. No.
Hey, Neil, why do you think I asked the Lord not to hold it to his account? Or we're supposed to be peacemakers.
I asked the Lord to strike him down.
Well, you go your way then. I care for people. I care for him. Now, obviously, he accused Nathan of things. Then he turned around and did it to people on the panel and behaved in the way that he said he didn't like Nathan behaving. But then he did it. It's like the whole thing.
He's a God hater.
Excuse Neil. What is up with you?
I'm calling it like it is, Kent. He's a God hating piece of shit.
and so were you before you came to God.
Wait a minute. Is he? Whoa, that's a heavy ass claim. Are you calling him a God hater because he's not a Christian?
No, he's
anti-Christian. I'm asking you a question. It's the only question that's important. You ever heard him say there's no such thing as God?
Have you ever heard of some of his stuff?
Neil, listen to what I'm asking.
That's a God hater.
Listen to what I'm asking you. Somebody who doesn't accept Jesus Christ is not a God hater. You can't say that. Chill out.
No, Neil, you're wrong anyway, because Jesus said, love your enemies. So come on.
He also said, don't cast your pearl to swine.
Well, what, then
swine.
No, that means don't have any more dealings when people are known to be evil and wrong. It doesn't mean you hate them. You don't pray that they go to hell.
That's not known
It just
to be evil
means
or wrong.
don't treat them like your trusting friends when they're conducting themselves like your enemies.
I don't keep bad company. If I have people who are evil, I don't keep company with them, but I pray for them.
Am I wrong for acting like the Sons of Thunder?
Yes, you're wrong, right? Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. You have no love.
That's some heavy stuff that he said. All right? That's heavy stuff.
That's some heavy stuff. That's some heavy stuff.
I agree, Neil. I agree.
I have love, but not for him.
Disgusting.
That's some heavy stuff you're saying, and you're saying you believe the words of Jesus.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
Neil, you don't belong to yourself when you come to Jesus. You fight all day long to belong to him and fight your own urges. Now, come on, you know that.
You guys treat him the way you want to treat him. I treat him the way I want to treat him.
Neil.
Okay?
Guys, don't
disgusted at that behaviour, yeah? And that's quite rightly so. I don't see any benefit in me spiling a load of vitriol back. There's nothing to be gained there. There was some stuff in the text that was worthy of comment because it dealt with the issue, but I think that's the best way to do it. Nathan's asked what he would like, which is a retraction. I think that's reasonable. He's expressed how upset he is and explained some of the standard language you'd expect anybody to use. That's fine. Let's get on. Yeah, people can see this for what it is. They're not daft. Doesn't need us to express any, and no one will do it more eloquently and more correctly than Nathan just did. People can read that themselves, listen to it. Yeah, we don't need to go into a tittle tattle of what we think of the person is kind of irrelevant, to be honest.
Obviously, I'm pissed off. So take more than half the shit I'm saying and throw it out. But half the shit I'm saying, keep.
Is it that he did that disrespected you, that got you to dislike him?
This is not a therapy session.
Nah,
but
Neil
it's
just
not
hates him because
necessary. You know
he
why
didn't
it's not
respect
necessary?
Christ. No, Neil hates Jaron.
It's not necessary. I heard you. So here's the thing. You know what the best interaction that I saw the other day? I forget the guy's name. I forget the Glober's name. It might have been Knit Hug or one of them. I don't know. And he said something that was just straight up true. And the Glober was like, no, that's not true. And he said, oh, okay. And then there was silence. And guess what? The conversation continued. He didn't allow this person to control the conversation by engaging with nonsense. You got to protect your spirit, man.
Right,
all
in
do.
the moment. In the moment. It's don't let the demons that pop out with another ruin the moment and the flow of what you're doing. Because then they win. That's why they pop up, to disturb you.
Just on another note, I'm not sure about the container. So in the boiling point of water, it'd take a bit longer to get it to saturation temperature, but I think the water will still boil at 100 degrees regardless of the material of the container.
What?
I say I've never heard that claim before. So if so, then let's see it demonstrated. Prove it to me.
Yeah, but isn't this the okie doke though? Even if you prove that in a certain container, the water will boil at a certain temperature, he'll just say, well, okay, but that's not the same parameter for some other container or some other type of water. And then you just switch it up. Like it's kind of, it's just an okie doke, man. Like,
no, I already put the slides in Master D on this. Like at Everest, it's at 69.9 Celsius, 158 Fahrenheit. At sea level, it's 100. And at the Dead Sea, it's 101.4. So the variation of the temperature isn't the issue. It's the heat.
Right, because all the other influences are stabilized, set to a specific parameter, right? In order for them not to be a variable within this specific experiment.
It's the same as just varying air pressure. So you could demonstrate that will change at the temperature at which water will boil. You want to vary that, aren't you? So what he's claiming is, from what I understand of it, so it's not my claim, but from what I understand he's saying is that you're going to have the heat in the experiment anyway, but the thing you're going to vary and see if this has an impact on the temperature at which the water boils is the container in which you're boiling the water in. So all other parameters are maintained. Heat, air pressure, etc., were all maintained within the experiment, and you repeat the experiment with the differing containers and see at which if the water boils at a different temperature. That appears to be I think that what Jaron should be demonstrating. And if he did that, I say I've never seen that anywhere else before. He'd get a Nobel Prize, I think, or something. Certainly recognition from me as he demonstrated and proved it to me.
If he did that, then he'd have no accusation against Nathan's claim because he used science to prove things.
That's
the scientific method.
That's the irony of that challenge, isn't it?
I think the problem is on that side of the camp, unfortunately. Bob says it's science, the ether that is. Whitsitt says it's not science, it's a belief. And Jaron jumps into the fray and says science doesn't prove things. You can't prove anything. And then he says he saw Zach's Van de Graaff generator make paper float, and that was proof enough for him to believe ether. Well, that's talking like nonsense there.
Well, something that
let's
continuously needs to be expressed and stressed to. Okay, you clear it up.
No, just so that we're on point, right? He didn't say that Zach's Van de Graaff generator lifting pieces of paper proves ether. What he was saying about that was in juxtaposition to Riley's egg, right? Because he says that, well, you can suppose the cause of the effect, which in Riley's case was the density of the medium, but you can't call that the cause because you haven't ruled out all the other causes. Now, unfortunately, he goes on to say that, well, you don't really need to talk about the electric part because that just sets the down direction and everything else is handled by density, which is my favorite part of that line.
Right, but Chocolate, right there, it sets the down direction. He is referencing what?
What he's referencing there is the electropotential in the air, so that voltage change in that direction. And he's saying that's the thing that sets the direction of down in reality. And the way you'll demonstrate that is by using the Van de Graaff generator and sending the current the other way, look, and the piece of paper goes the other way. It goes up, it levitates, I think is the phrase he uses, which demonstrates that he's reset or switched the orientation of down to density and buoyancy to play out in. That's what was undeniable to him in Zach's experiment.
But
And
why
how did
didn't
they-
everything
how-
fall through the ceiling then?
Wait a minute, how did they use that with the ether?
He's only reset it within the points within the Van de Graaff. Yeah, so there's only a resetting within that field that the Van de Graaff's resetting via it's changing the polarity or the direction of up and down through the current. Yeah, that's what I assume is resetting the polarity of up and down, and that's why the piece of paper goes up instead of down.
Adam, why? How are they using that for the ether then?
I don't know how that links to ether. That just seems. I suppose you could type it in. I don't know how they would do that.
I don't think that is. We don't have to say it is either. I think they're just saying. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I know, but
I hear you, Wheeler.
Oh, okay. So what I'm saying is, from what I understand, they're just trying to figure out other things. So when it comes to this thing specifically, and Whitsitt will say, he's not saying it's density and buoyancy. Now I know they had the whole debate thing and all that. That being had, he still says, yeah, sure, density is the determining factor, but there are other things at play. And I guess it's a cool effect. There's something cool to see when you use the Van de Graaff generators to do whatever it does. And it's like, okay, it does what it does. I didn't hear nobody say that proves the ether, so we can just let that be. Okay, cool. It's an effect. What are you guys trying to say? I'd rather ask that, hear them tell us what it's about. But if they was like, this proves the ether, I'd be like, make that logical connection for me, and I give them room to try to do that. I don't see how that would be possible, but
I thought it was about magnetism, electrostatics, and all these words they throw around, and that's why they use the Van de Graaff as an example. Isn't that what it was all about?
No, that was specific as far as I'm aware.
I'm only speaking for Whitsitt. I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know.
I've only heard that Van de Graaff.
I don't know what everybody else is saying.
Third attempt, Adam.
I've only heard the Van de Graaff referenced with regards to determination of up and down with regards to density and buoyancy to be played out in. There is that concession. Of course, the main thing at play is density, but it's what causes the orientation of up and down for that to play out in. And that, as I understood it, was what Jaron was referencing, and Zach's experiment was what demonstrated and proved it to him.
Okay, well, based on that, how could he accept the results when you can't prove anything with science?
Maybe that experiment wasn't science. The logical.
Even if you like, they just take the words as they're stated. Thinking they're saying is like, look, if you do this thing here, then it kind of reverses the up down orientation. Now, I do think reasonable that that was said that, oh, wouldn't that mean that I go ahead and have with my
You're roboting.
one day down?
You're roboting.
Not for me.
Chaka, do you have handy
Can you
the
hear me now?
Landgraph generator, but it's a particle accelerator, and we're called atomists. And so now they're going to go to an atomist machine.
I heard you fine, Eli.
Yeah, all I was saying was, look, just like anti-gravity would have us believe, okay, we should be floating and flying around. Well, if this thing is supposed to switch the orientation of up and down, then just like in my favorite video game, Sonic the Hedgehog, I should be able to run on the ceiling someday. That's what I would think is the conclusion to this whole thing, is that, well, if the orientation is switched, that means up is down and down is up.
You just want a
Since
special
that's
pair
not
of Air
true,
Jordans.
I don't think that you can take that conclusion.
I'm not
Seems
taking
to me like
I don't know what they're saying.
You've applied that technology to a fantasy of yours. All we've stated there is our understanding from what I've listened to Jaron say, what he was claiming, what showed him that Riley's experiment wasn't valid. Yeah, what he saw in Zach's experiment, and what he convinced him that there was a change, that the electric flow was the causation for the direction of orientation. And Zach's experiment showed that when he reversed the flow, a piece of paper went up, showing that there's a causation of orientation for up and down. That's his claim. That to expand on that is supposition of his thoughts. That's all I heard. But I did hear that, I think, clearly.
Yeah, I reposted the audio in Master D. If you want to play it when it loads up.
Sure. I've got to scroll through quite. I don't see it.
It might still be loading. My Skype always takes a while to load up.
Okay, no worries.
It seems like the ether believers, when they come to your show, they've hit a brick wall and they don't like it. And this is what they're doing now. They're trying to disturb the show and cause problems because they come with the ether. It's like it's a brick wall in the face. That's how it seems anyway.
But it's not done that, has it? Listen to look at the figures. Look at Alwyn's figures today. It's boosted Alwyn, man. He was on at nearly 50 at one point.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I've only gained new subscribers.
Excellent.
It's had the opposite effect.
I 10th spotted that. I've got to give props because, I've tried to disseminate my feelings at the end of that live show as much as I can. Really wear my heart on my sleeve, as they say. But to actually be proven wrong, I didn't have that in the back of my mind while I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve, but it is while I'm saying this now, which is I've got 5 new Patreons. One of them dropped a bundle on me. All of them have said the same thing, that they're really supportive and can't believe what Jaron's doing. The endless messages going, is this really happening? Seriously? What? That's what the overwhelming response has been.
So we should say thank you, Jaron. Okay. Thanks, Jaron.
I wouldn't go that far.
God works in mysterious ways.
I wouldn't thank him for effectively just ruining his own.
Being sarcastic. I see him in front of me, I'd beat the living piss
Did you
out
hear
of him.
Arwin talking, Neil?
Jesus.
Yes, I did. I was saying it sarcastically. If I seen him in front of me, I'd beat the living piss out of him. Do you hear me speaking?
Metaphorically speaking. Metaphorically.
Neil is extra Italian.
Anyway, I think I think it's most important. I think it's most important. The thing that Nathan highlighted the other day when he was going through the scientific method, it only being a supposition, what being empirical about it is your statement. This thing that I think is causing the phenomena will be tested to be just that, or it will test to not be that. That's it. End of story. Now, for those that are like, it's not useful for what I want to do, okay, then use another method. Because as we all agree, there isn't only one way to knowledge. So go ahead and logically present what you can present and, just let the people decide. But one thing I won't do is have the scientific method delegitimized when you don't want to use it and then say, well, it's unuseful. No, a cup is useful for putting water in. I'm not going to try to do other things with it and say, oh, well, it doesn't do a lot, does it? Well, yeah, I guess, but it is useful for what it's useful for. I mean, for God's sakes, chill out.
Did you want to add something one deck? You were trying to get a word in earlier. Maybe it's away from his mic. It was quite a while ago that he was trying to get a word in. Oh, go ahead.
No, I don't. I think I said it. I just, like you say, you've got the extra Patreons. That's great, but listening to that and the behaviour, it's to me they just seem very frustrated that they're not getting through with the ether. They can't get through because you guys are so. The way you deal with it is fantastic, and it's great. You're getting more support through it, but I think this is why they're behaving the way they are, because they can't break you guys down. And that's what we're saying. I think it came across before, so that was it.
But we're not making a positive claim. That's the thing. You say, I know your sentiment. I'm not disagreeing with you when I say this, but when you phrase it the way you did, they can't break us down. It's like, in what? We're not making any positive assertions, but what we do and how we do it undoes their claims, because they're not using the methods and in regards to the words that they're using. When they say experiment, they haven't got an experiment. When they say proof, they haven't got proof. They're leaning on the magic trick of, well, we've done an experiment, and then, like on Globebusters when I was discussing it with them, said, okay, so if it's not an experiment, it's not got an empirical outcome, it's not proof based on the standard. And they're like, well, let's watch it anyway. It's an explanation. It's like, well, no, an explanation is what you get after you validate your hypothesis. Then you've got an explanation. A causes B. But if you've only got the supposition without the validation, you don't have an explanation. But Bob's response to me was, now let's listen to this explanation. It's like, why? It's not proving anything. Get lost. It's outrageous. That was the response. 4 years later, here we are with the exact same thing happening. But I don't want to focus on this at all. I don't know about you guys. As much as it's terrifying initially, and now it's like, great, I've got a few more Patreons. Woo. Wouldn't we all rather be in the calm? This is no different to me saying now, I'd rather not have the baller's ear being irritating. Much better disseminating the educational information in a very calm manner. That might not generate controversy in bigger numbers, but that isn't necessarily what I want. Peaceful life is much better with consistent numbers than the odd day where you go up because something controversial is going on, like it is at the moment. Nah. The bit that people really, when they leave a long message praising me and the team for what we do together here on Flat Earth Debate, it's in regards to the very carefully phrased, slowly disseminated, information-dense shows that we have. Not the ones where there's some petty... And this is petty, let's be honest, when we're talking at this level of dumbed-down science understanding. It's petty. But, this is, it's not worth our time. Put the YouTube hat on and I could go, oh, isn't it great? Other than I'm being called a scammer in my own community.
Nathan, I got to go early today, so let me finish up a summary. I think his fight, this is Jaron, is against science. Science doesn't prove things. Now, we know pseudoscience. We would all agree with him on that point. And that's how we got here, because people used the legitimacy of scientific method and they brought in pseudoscience, and now we have scientism. So we're all battling scientism and pseudoscience. We should all be on the same page there. But then when it comes to actual science, the empirical method, that camp decided to say what they said. Now, why did they say it? Science doesn't prove things. Because we came and said, what is ether? Can you prove it? And so they didn't like it. They didn't like that they couldn't do some pseudoscience and not be called out for it. So we said, well, look, if you can show us ether, if you can validate it, we'll accept it. And they failed and still have. So what's next? Science doesn't prove things. You guys are scammers, this, and the other. So it is a very necessary, in our case, evolution of our show and evolution of this argument, because people now will realize who has the more serious flat earth channel and who's not going to put up with pseudoscience even from their own side. So I commend you for that. And I've got to go, so I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Carefully. Experiments prove that the ether is actually there. Right. That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
You can demonstrate, you can prove that there is a cause and effect relationship.
Well, water, well, what about this water or muddy water? Well, no, each one of those would give an empirical result, and it would be just for that thing.
They're scamming. So, because if they can keep perpetuating.
Yeah, I'm going to expect a retraction from you, Jaron. Of course, it wouldn't have mattered what I put through that hypothesis because it can only prove. That's all it does. That's one of my members only videos that's coming out, or it's out now actually for a member, but it'll come out for the general public over the weekend. So might as well read them as I've got a list in front of me, or I did have. Where's that gone? It's on the page that I was showing. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, I've lost my network connection. Oh, what a joke. Can you guys still hear me in Discord? In Gilded.
Can we causing ruckus? Nah, that doesn't happen.
Back, by the way, I've got network connection issues. Okay, I just want to plug my shows. So I've got 4 shows coming out, including the one we did yesterday together. So I've got I Exposed the Ether, quote, scam live on Globebusters. Then this happened, exclamation mark. So that is a 6 or 7 minute trimmed out clip from the end of my visit to Globebusters almost 4 years ago. And I don't know when these are going to come out, but over the weekend. Educating Jeranism, Hypothesis Actualization, The Experiment. So that's another one that will come out. And then I've got Ken Wheeler, Quizlet Flashcards, which was our little impromptu recording that we made yesterday evening, or evening for me. And last but by no means least, we've got Educating Jeranism in Basic Science, the Scientific Method. That's about 8 minutes long, and that'll come out over the weekend as well. So I've got 4 videos that will come out over the weekend at the usual time slots. So whatever the usual time slot is for you for a live show, there'll be a video on the main channel. And then whatever the usual time slot for an after show, there'll be a video, but again on the main channel, just at that time. Just so you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
What now and what a hypothesis is? Yeah. Better stick with the NASA photos there, you brownie.
Oh, you took him to Jaron.
Bubbles in space?
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, I always say, just let them speak.
Are we still
Yes,
live?
sir.
This is live?
No. After my red-faced, furious pointing out that I'd backed into a corner like an animal, I ended the show after that. I didn't want to go on camera and be all red-faced and pissed off, so I just pressed the outro button.
Okay, gotcha.
We're in after show.
Yes.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it's only 10 to 4, isn't it?
Three blind mice. See how they run. See how they run. Thank you, mice.
See, all I got now in my head is the Three Stooges.
Everything okay, Righteous? Usually Righteous only joins us in G+ if there's an issue.
Right, you're not on Discord.
Oh, it's kicked me and I haven't rejoined.
Yeah.
You mean Gilded?
Well, we haven't been on Discord for a while.
Well, he had knowledge about the Discord server getting deleted and said and implied that he had something to do with it.
Yeah, he did actually, and that's kind of scary.
That wasn't why I asked him for his immediate removal. The reason I asked for his immediate removal was because he was attempting to launch into the reasons why the Discord server got shut down. Now, in so doing, if you imagine there's a load of words that you shouldn't say. Have you seen the scene in Life of Brian when they're talking about stoning the guy who said Jehovah? Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. Right. If you can get the words that or the sentiment of what got the Discord server shut down, there's a reasonable chance that Gilded will hear it published, see it published, or my YouTube channel will have it published, and the same thing will happen. Oh, wow, 2 birds with 1 stone. What a great result for this wanker that won't shut up in Discord, right? I had to mute the line because he wouldn't shut up, and you guys just heard verbal diarrhea for 10 straight minutes while he was in there, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Right. Obviously, we're running a show. I'm pouring my heart out, and this arsehole's in the Gilded server not shutting up.
The guy's got issues, man. He sounded like a psychopath.
Well, he just immediately started throwing straw mans. The moment I actually ran out of steam and wanted to open the line, I did, and it opened up to, you guys think the world's a pizza pie flying up through... No, that's the Flat Earth Society's straw man rhetoric with an edge that boats fall over because you've got a sphere edge horizon that boats fall over. Check out how quickly I pulled apart that straw man.
Is that what he says? Is that how he started? I didn't even hear all that crap.
Yeah, well, I saw him join, then I saw the immediate Fundy muting that was going to be straight through the middle of me, so I just closed the line before he even had a chance to get heard. It's like, okay, so you're going to start talking me middle of my pouring my heart out? Nah, sod you. And then by the time I got back to opening the lineup, he was still talking, and the entire time I watched his light flashing away. I'm like, well, Discord can't hear me. But, okay.
Gilded. It's going to take a while.
It is.
You know, the thing was, he was straw manning you with his model too, like the.
But that's a good sign, right? He wanted to come here and show his pain about his magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Why
Why
wasn't he immediately muted?
Who knows? But Chewy, we're getting attacked on all fronts.
I'll tell you why it wasn't from my end. Because for whatever reason, my computer's very slow to react. So the last time I went to mute Matthias, you go, right, I'm muting you. And that's all captured nice and cleanly. Then my mouse stutters its way over to his position. Then I press the button and nothing happens. Then it loads the menu. And then I accidentally press the wrong mute button. Then I have to go, and by then it's been about 45 seconds of him still being able to talk. Because my computer won't react quick enough.
What? No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people that were in Gilded.
Oh, the very kind people that set up the server and moderate it for us at no pay at their own, Yeah, you bastards. Why aren't you doing your jobs?
That's why I'm asking. See, I can ask that question. I remove you out of it. I recuse you.
Well, I was out and about and I just got back, and the rest of the guys, they need to kind of get taught on how to handle it, I guess.
Paul was saying
That's not fair enough. I think it's
back
only
office,
reasonable that you are permanently in there. That is now your job.
Nathan, I think it's because he says, Paul LVA, mods can't ban only Righteous and Betty can at the moment.
Yeah, but they could mute him.
All right, well, there you go. No excuse then. Sort it out.
I mean, maybe he's a friendly and he needs explaining because he's slow, that talking about something that's shut down an entire server might not necessarily be appropriate for a live show on YouTube. But if he's slow, then that might have to be explained to him, as opposed to my instinct, which is save my channel, immediately remove this person. That's okay. All the same safeguards are in exactly the same position as they were with Discord. So it doesn't matter that it's gilded. And it doesn't matter that my computer's slowing down. And it doesn't even matter that there's nobody around to just stick him on server mute there and then. Because there's about 3 or 4 or what they call redundant safeguards against things like that. So as much as people might say, you've got a mute button. Yeah, I've got about 20 of them in about 5 different places with a load of different gates between them. That's how you run a show with 4 different places that people can talk from. Yeah, shocking, isn't it? I'll run a show. Yeah. So when they say you've got a mute button, you're like, I tell you what, go and... I studied media at college. It wasn't my main subject, but I did do it, and can you imagine running anything where you couldn't close down a line to something? I mean, it's absurd, but that's what they choose to neg me over. You're like, what? You have to laugh.
Yeah, it's a second grade appeal. Everyone that could fog a mirror knows that.
I should be able to shout not only through you, but through every guest permanently the entire time I'm here, and indeed through your intro and outro. How dare you be able to stop me from doing that? I run a show.
Well, he did say that this is my show now, and I'm about to school Nathan.
I love it. All right. Yeah, none of that got heard, mate. You know why? Because it ain't your show.
Delusions of grandeur, eh? So there's a lot of delusionary behavior going on out there. Hey, Jaron, how you like that little hypothesis?
Which one?
You clown.
Which one? How'd you like which hypothesis?
Which one? That's my water boiling hypothesis I put together like 6 years ago.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, the ballers stumbled on it too. They put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, like your dumbass did. Why? Because you don't know what natural science or the scientific method is. Essentially, you're a pretender clown. And we used your own words to show it. Just tattoo dumb fuck pretender clown on your forehead and be done with it already. Well, we already knew that. Haven't we? Haven't we already known that for many years, Jaron? You jabroni. What a clown. Thanks, by the way. Appreciate it.
Well, in that regard, thank you from a YouTube perspective with my YouTube hat on. Your idiocy has lent to me getting, in all seriousness, I'm not just saying it, a lot more support. A lot more super chats, a lot more Patreons, a lot more kind words, people sympathizing with my situation, expressing their, not disdain, but disheartenment in regards to your behavior, their shock in regards to your attitude. All of those things are the things that I've received as a result of this. So initially, it's like, your attitude, Jaron, this won't work out well for you. Okay. Yeah, that was what I initially thought. Yeah. Fighting for truth never does it? Got some arsehole who's going to try and stop you because you get in the way of their pseudoscience punting nonsense.
In the way of their ambitions. That's what it is. And Ether is the latest one.
So where's the claims for Bob scamming with his scientific proof of ether? Anything on that front?
Well, that's the issue. That's the corner I've backed him into in my defensive nature. I've got a lot of attack in me, shock, right? Well, that's the corner back that, if anybody hasn't been keeping up, if you hadn't figured this out already, I'm not trying to talk down to you if you're like, yeah, well, duh. Jaron calling me a scammer for saying science proves is easily juxtaposed with lots of other people who have said science proves ether. Now, again, Jaron's not the sharpest tool in the box. He's taken that to mean, when would I say ether? Makes no difference, Jaron. You're saying science is a scam when I say it proves things. That's the point. That's what you've said. Now, you can try and spin it into anything you like, but that's still going to be used against all of the other people you associate with to make them look stupid and wrong and like scammers and liars because you're saying it about them contextually when they say science proves whatever the hell they're claiming with their just so stories and pseudoscience. Well, that's a very useful tool that I can use indefinitely. Now, I don't think Jaron has picked up on this either, so I might as well labour this point if he watches this after the fact or not. I'm not suggesting people pass this information on to him. I just want it out there in the public domain so it's understood. Like Simon Dan, with you and your reference frames are ruined. It's not like when you say, you'll talk about this indefinitely. You didn't pick up what I was putting down, and admittedly I was furious, so I wasn't putting it down very well. What I was trying to say is, this can either go two ways. You can either retract your outrageous claims that I'm a scammer, or, like Simon Dan, with you and your reference frames are ruined, or Conspiracy Cats, without the container there can be no pressure, or George Musa, with a bazillion different quotes, which I won't list off now. You'll end up being immortalized. That's what will happen, Jaron. That's what I'm trying to say. When I say I'll do it indefinitely, or I can go on forever making videos about it. What I'm saying is, when Simon Dan hears his name mentioned, it's because he's a very useful tool when it comes to Coriolis deflection. Yeah? You and your reference frames are ruined is a nice little summary of how the globe claims Coriolis effect and how Dan's saying they don't work. Well, you're denying science with boiling water as your defense. That's going to be immortalized the more we talk about it, the more it'll get refined, the more your dumbass will be the example and poster child of ignorance when it comes to science, Jaron. Now, I can concisely put that down now because I'm calm, relatively speaking. But it's now got to that point. We're right on that point where we're going to be concisely summarizing you and what you've said about science not proving things contextually as the example of this. Yeah? And how the greasing of the skids takes place when there's pseudoscience claims like Zach's experiment, Jaron. Yeah, that will inevitably be immortalized with your name attached to it. But you could have just retracted that I'm a scammer for saying science proves. No, didn't want to do that. Spent too many years saying that Zach's proved things with his experiment, haven't you? Yeah, that's unfortunate. Pride's got in the way. Okay? Well, the consequences are now been laid out for you. In no uncertainty. You can still make that retraction, by the way.
What? Wait a second. Zach? Who's Zach?
Good times for all.
Zachary Sabala.
Zachary's. Who the hell? Oh, I remember that crayon muncher. Yeah, hey, window licker, you think you got an experiment? You wouldn't know an experiment was. It climbed up your arse and started kicking footballs wrapped in concertina wire. You're another Dunning-Kruger idiot. And I'd like to go back here for a second. Jaron brought up the non sequitur ether, all non sequitur like, in his spiel on his lack of understanding of science or natural science, right? He brought that walking contradiction shits at 60 into it with his ether. Didn't he say something like, right? Like I said, it was non sequitur. Right in the middle of his spill, his bashing himself in the face with a spade shovel spill on friggin' science can't prove anything. Didn't he come out and just say something to the effect that, why don't you just agree with shit's at 60? Did I miss that?
No. He said apologize.
Yeah. For what? It was non sequitur for him to bring it up. Idiot red herring fallacy. Had nothing to do with the discussion. Why bring the ether up and us agreeing, fucking clown, with the walking contradiction sits at 60? Why even state it? I'm not getting the connection.
Anyone?
He wanted an
I'm
apology, huh?
I'm thinking the connection should be, why has Jaron not called Witsit a scammer? Because Witsit says that you can establish a cause and effect relationship.
Right.
With science.
So that I can play as a short. So
Jaron has said it.
Just 1 second, I want to plug one of my videos. So this is a short video, or a shorts video, called "No Honor Amongst Scammers," or "No Honor Amongst Spooks."
So Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? I've got this set up for. Oh no, I wanted to go to Witsit gets it. Witsit gets it. Just wanted to find this one part.
You can prove that there is a cause and effect relationship. Your thing about the science, I actually don't fully disagree with you. I think what this is you can demonstrate, you can prove it. When you manipulate heat, water boils.
Back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
You can prove it. When you manipulate heat, water boils.
Witsit gets it.
Your thing about the science, I actually don't fully disagree with you. I think you can prove it.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? Witsit gets it.
You can prove it.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? I've got this set up for. Oh no, I wanted to go to Witsit gets it.
Turn out the lights. Party's over. Fucking clowns.
I thought that the three blind mice analogy was pretty good because they don't seem to be realizing about their own team what they're even saying. They're attacking us on something that their own teammates are basically contradicting it. So
the question QE asked was, has Jaron called out Witsit as a scammer? Because Witsit gets it saying you can prove the cause and effect relationship, or it's cause and effect hypothesis. Yeah, that's a scientific prediction. Yeah, you can prove a hypothesis. That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm being attacked as being a scammer for. But based on the fact that Witsit's saying you can prove it, the cause and effect relationship, yeah, why isn't he being called out as a scammer? Further to that, we've got Bob saying, I can prove ether with science. Is he being called a scammer? No, I am.
That line that Witsit said was directly in response to a super chat left by Jaron directed to Brian when Brian brought up that Jaron had just recently said that science doesn't prove things. That's why Witsit said, well, I don't fully disagree with you. He was talking to Brian. And he doesn't disagree that you can establish a cause and effect relationship. So, is he a scammer?
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard it.
Just a second, because this just to connect. If you listen to the clip, I'm sure the example is you add heat to water, it boils. Which is why I found Jaron's challenge interesting. Because it's another direct challenge to Witsit then as well.
Yeah, I heard. I could have sworn I heard Jaron share the sentiment that, like, on various topics when he's exposing, the pseudoscience, he also, in certain points, he says words like the real science. So, I mean, clearly he thinks that. Obviously there's something called true and false. If you make statements about reality, you can make true and false statements. And then those statements can be proven, especially if we're dealing with the physical world. I just think he should apologize. And I mean, if he feels a way about how Witsit was treated, okay, that's fair, fine. Okay, if you don't like the name calling and all that, okay, whatever. Even though that's what we do, and that's what you also do to NASA
when you're talking about them sending up their dicks up in the space and how retarded they are. So, I mean, you're doing that to somebody's baby too, Jaron. So if you're gonna keep it about that, keep it about that. But you do got it. I do think you have to apologize for calling him a scammer, because that would just make you hypocritical. I don't want to have to dig up a video, because I do watch you. I mean, I don't think you haven't said the real science this and this proves. You've said those words before, so.
Exactly. He has completely laid it out, how he does know exactly every part of the step of the scientific method. He made effort to do it right. So to now do this is just ridiculous.
Thing about the science, I actually don't fully disagree with you. I think the answer is nuance. Okay, what this is you can demonstrate, you can prove that there is a cause and effect relationship.
The Sagnac experiments proved that the ether is actually there.
Right? That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
You can demonstrate, you can prove that there is a cause and effect relationship.
They're scamming.
What science has known for hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
What science has known,
you know science doesn't prove anything, right? Right? That's how you know you're being scammed.
Experiments prove that the ether.
You know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Just let them speak. You're welcome.
On the subject of apologies, there's only one apology, and that's to Nathan for calling him a scammer. The rest, it is fair game. Even calling me a flat earth homo, it's fair enough. I've been called worse. You know what I mean? I'm not bothered about it. The only apology due is that, because that's the thing that's out of order. It's dishonest, and he knows it.
He won't be able to do it. You can't retract that now. You hear that, jabroni? That's your pride fucking with you, you Dunning-Kruger muppet. How's that hypothesis working out for you? You don't even know what one is, do you? Yeah, we heard it. Tacitly, you're fucking clueless. Thanks.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashing the thanks button and all that good stuff. Another extra special thank you to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel and making it actually possible by keeping food on the table and keeping the lights on. So thank you again to all of my Patreons. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!